Ajnana-timandasya ganangana-salakaya Chaksusumita yena tasma Sri-Prabhu nama Sri-chaitanya-mano-vishtam stapita yena bhutale Sayarupa-kadamana dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Sri-Guru-sutam Padakamala Sri-Guru-Vaishnavascha Sri-Rupam Sakajata Sahagana Raghunatha-vitantam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padasahakana Lalita Sri Vishakha-vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantu Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhani Sutta Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vanchaka Patarubhyascha Kripa Srinivyayivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabudaya Krishna Chaitanya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaurati Silama Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Ananda Lila Maya Vigraya Himabada Vitabi Sundaraya Tasma Maha Prema Sapraya Chaitanya Chandaya Nama Namastate Chaitanya Chandaya Nama Namastate. So I thank everyone for coming, for being here at our weekly, not weekly, daily Bhagavad-Gita class. So now we are in the chapter 14, which is dealing with the modes of material nature. So chapter 14. So we are beginning today with chapter 14. So the Lord have explained to Arjuna the last chapter about the nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. So about the Lord talks about the Ketra, the field, the knower of the field, Ketra, and then the Purusha, the Supreme Lord, who actually knows who knows everybody, the Purusha, the Paramatma. So this knowledge is explained in the chapter 13 of the field of activities, the know of the field, and how the living entities can actually get out of this material body. So in the verse, the Lord is talking about the association with the gunas. Karana guna sangoshya sadasa yona jammasu. So the Lord said that the cause of the living entities suffering in this material world, the karana means the cause of the living entities being bound in the material body is due to association with the gunas. The gunas means there are three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So because of this association with the gunas, so the living entities, he has to take so many births in the material world. So Sango Asya, because of this association with gunas, so Sad means yoni, different spaces of life. different species of life which the living entities have to take because of the association with the gunas. So that guna is the Lord, what the Lord is going to explain to Arjuna in this chapter. So chapter 14 is part of the Gyan section of the Bhagavad-Gita. As we have explained in the previous classes, that Bhagavad-Gita is divided into 3 sections: Karma, Bhakti, and Gyan. So the first 6 chapters is about Karma. And of course, when we say Karma means which leads one to God, of course. Karma Niskam karma, which means unattached to one's activities. One performs activities, but there's no attachment to it. The performer of the activities, he offers everything unto God, unto Krishna. So this is called Niskam Karma, the desireless action. Desireless action. This is what the Lord explained from chapter 2 to chapter 6 of the Gita. And then the chapter 7 to chapter 12 is about Bhakti, dealing with Bhakti. So all aspects of Bhakti, whereby one gets to know the Lord, the Lord's energy, the Lord's opulence, and how one can become very, very dear to Him. So this is all explained in the chapter 7 to chapter 12. And then from chapter 13 onwards to the last chapter 18, it's all about Gyan. And of course, when we say Gyan, Gyan does not mean dry knowledge. Gyan doesn't mean that the knowledge that leads one to impersonal liberation. Gyan that leads one to Bhakti. Just like the Lord said, jñānam parāṁ. Now I'm going to tell you the most confidential knowledge. He's telling Arjuna, which means to surrender to me to become my devotees. So now we're going to start with text number 1 of the chapter 14. You have chapter 14 open? Okay. All right. śrī-bhagavān uvāca parāṁ bhūyaḥ pravakṣyāmi jñānānāṁ jñānam uttamam jñātvā munayaḥ sarve parāṁ siddhim itaḥ. śrī-bhagavān uvāca, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, parāṁ, transcendental, bhūyaḥ, again, pravakṣyāmi, I shall speak, jñānānāṁ, of all knowledge, jñānam, knowledge, uttamam, the supreme, yet, which, jñātvā, knowing, munayaḥ, these sages, sarve, all, parāṁ, transcendental, siddhim, perfection, itaḥ, from this world, gatāḥ, attained. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Purport. From the 7th chapter to the end of the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, the Lord Himself is further enlightening Arjuna. If one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. In the 13th chapter, it was clearly explained that by humbly developing knowledge, one may possibly be freed from material entanglement. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this material world. Now, in this chapter, the Supreme Personality explains what those modes of nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfection and transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord now explains the same knowledge in a better way. This knowledge is far superior to all other processes of knowledge thus far explained, and knowing this, many attained perfection. Thus, it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. śrī-bhagavān uvāca, parāṁ bhūyaḥ pravakṣyāmi, jñānānāṁ jñānam uttamam, jñātvā munayaḥ sarve parāṁ siddhim itaḥ gatāḥ. The Supreme Lord said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Let me see if this picture is still here. There is a picture in the Bhagavad-Gita of how the living entity is hooked up like a string. It should be here. Okay. This picture here, you can see at what chapter? There's no chapter. You can see the string here. This is the picture. If you can see the picture, the three ladies. There's a Bhagavan on top. And there are three ladies who are holding the string. How the living entity is hooked up to the strings. So this is how you've all seen the picture. So which means the living entities in this material world not independent whatsoever. Even though we like to say, oh, we're so independent, or we are going to become independent. But how are you going to become independent? Listen, just by some agitation, by some so-called protest, you can never be independent. Because the so-called independence in this material world is just illusion, that's all. Just like when Srila Prabhupada first met his guru Srila Bhakti-yoga in 1922. So that time, when Śrī-bhagavān told Prabhupada that that time he was just an householder, and he told him that you are a young man, you should take up this message of Bhagavad-Gita and preach it to the world. You are a young, educated man, take this message of Mahaprabhu and go to the world and preach it. So Srila Prabhupada replied that we are under the subordination of the British. So who's going to hear our message? We need to be independent first. And of course, the Śrī-bhagavān has explained that the so-called independence in this material world is just illusion, because the living entity is always under the control of the material energy. So where is the so-called independence? Karana guna sangwasya sada sad yoni jamasu. The living entity since time immemorial has been associated with the material nature, and the material nature is defined by the three modes, the three gunas: satyagun, rajagun, and tamagun, by these three modes. So the Lord is telling Arjuna that I am going to give you this topmost knowledge. I'm going to give you this topmost knowledge. Param bhūyaḥ pravakṣyāmi. This is best of the most transcendental knowledge. I'm going to give you this best knowledge. Jñānānāṁ, jñānam uttamam. Uttamam jñān, the best knowledge I'm going to give you. Because even though I've told you so many things before, but this knowledge I'm going to give you, it actually transcends all what you have heard before. Because we know from chapter 1, let's say from chapter 2 to chapter 13, the Lord has explained so many varieties of knowledge. But in this chapter, the Lord said, I am going to give you something that is much more supreme, that is much more higher than what you have heard before. Because why? The Lord said, jñātvā munayaḥ sarve. Parāṁ siddhim itaḥ gatāḥ. So that because this knowledge, so many great sages, they heard it. They understood this knowledge, and by them understanding this knowledge, they got liberation from this material world. They attained perfection from this material world, from this understanding of this knowledge. And that's why at the end of this purport, what is that? So at the end of this purport, which we are reading now, so Srila Prabhupada said, that thus it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. This is a very bold declaration. If you are able to understand this 14th chapter, you will attain perfection. That's a bold declaration. But of course, we know that many of us, we have been reading this same Gita for many years. We have read this chapter 14. We have read the whole 18th chapter of the Gita for many years. We are still the same. We haven't taken that solid step of really attaining perfection. So which means we are hearing, but it's not really entering into our ears. It's like whatever we hear, again comes out on the other side. We hear something, and it comes out. Whereas, when we actually hear something, it should go inside our heart, we reflect upon it, and then we make a determination to do that. It's just like when yesterday, when he was when he was about to begin the composition of Mahabharata, and he had requested Ganesh ji to be his writer, his scribe. So Lord Ganesh said that, yes, I will write, but when you start composing, you cannot stop composing. If you stop composing, then I will stop writing. So which means Vyasadeva have to continue speaking so that Ganesh ji will keep on writing. So knowing this, so Vyasadeva, he will compose a verse. He will compose a verse so deep that Ganesh ji, before he write down, he will have to think about it. He will have to meditate on that verse. So that when he meditates on it, and then before he will write it down. Even he doesn't just write down, but he hears something. Let me think about this. What Vyasadeva I just composed. Then, upon understanding, and then he will write it down. So this is the method of acquiring and understanding knowledge. Because when we hear knowledge should have effect on our life when we hear something. So the Lord is saying that many sages in the past, by sarve jñātvā, that many sages in the past, they understand this knowledge. They heard this knowledge. So it means the same knowledge that the Lord want to explain to Arjuna, the same knowledge have been told before to great sages. And the great sages, because they heard it, they meditate upon it, and they act upon it, so they attain perfection. So which means this Gita it was spoken before. It was spoken before by the Lord, and then the Lord is now telling Arjuna the same knowledge I'm telling you, the sages, they have heard it before, and then they've attained the perfection. Now, and of course, the three modes of nature, which actually binds the living entity in this material world. Now, throughout this chapter, of course, which consists of how many verses? It's only 20 verses actually. No, 27 verses. 27 verses that's in this chapter. So the Lord will be explaining different aspects of the modes of the material, the three gunas. What is it? What is it the Sattvagun? What is it in Rajagun? And what is in Tamagun? How the different living entities are classified according to the particular gunas. Those who are in the modes of goodness, Sattvagun. Those who are in the mode of passion, Rajagun, and those who are in the mode of ignorance. So the three, so you can actually, by analyzing the characteristics of these modes, then we can know a particular individual in this world. We can know them just by analyzing the symptoms, the characteristics of each mode. And then in the chapter 17, there's going to be further more in-depth analysis of the three modes, the activities. What is it? Like a Brahmana is supposed to be in the mode of goodness. A Kshatriya is in the mode of passion. And then a Vaishya is it's combination of tamas and raja. And then a Sudra is a mode of tama. And then goes to the activities, and then in chapter 18, for the further analysis is also there of these gunas, the three modes. So which means the knowledge of the gunas, the three modes of material nature, is so vast. It's such a vast knowledge. It's so vast knowledge. And of course, also in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, the Lord also explained this to Uddhava when the Lord, before he wound up his pastimes in the material world 5,000 years ago, he also gave instruction to Uddhava. Uddhava was his dear friend. He was a very dear friend of Lord Krishna. Not just a friend, he was the Lord's intimate, very intimate with the Lord. And Uddhava was such a person that he actually had the same characteristics as the Lord, the same bodily features, everything. That when he was sent here to Vrindavan to come and give consolation to the Brajavasis, because Lord Krishna had left Vrindavan, and he had promised the Brajavasi that he's going to come back, but he didn't come back. He simply sent Uddhava to go and give consolation to the Brajavasis. So when the Lord was after the winding up, after the withdrawal of the Yadu dynasty, everybody has gone. Now the Lord, he was ready to leave. Just to close his pastime, to become avyakta, or manifest. So that time, Uddhava said, okay, I want to follow you, because he said that I could not function, I could not live without you. I want to follow you. But the Lord said, no, there is something for you to do for me, because you are very, very dear to me, and no one is more dear to me. Even my wife, Lakshmi, my brother, even my own self is not as dear to me as you. You are the most dear to me. So therefore, I want to give you a message, and take this message to the sages at Badarik, at the Himalaya. So I want to give you this message. So the Lord then, basically, whatever he explained in the Bhagavad-Gita to Arjuna, then he explained the same thing to Uddhava, but in a much more elaborate. Because while Bhagavad-Gita was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the battle was just about to begin, and because Arjuna didn't want to fight, so the Lord had to speak Bhagavad-Gita. So Bhagavad-Gita was spoken for about 45 minutes. Then Arjuna understood, and then Arjuna fought. But in this case, the Lord was in pravakṣyāmi, which is not far from Dwarka, and the Lord was underneath a banyan tree. So underneath the banyan tree, the Lord was relaxing, and whoever came, now he sat at the feet of the Lord, and then the Lord began to give this knowledge, which is called Bhagavad-Gita, because the knowledge was spoken to whatever. So Bhagavad-Gita contains 23 chapters. So within that knowledge, there's one particular chapter which deals exclusively with the three modes of material nature. And then the Lord explains how the different symptoms of the three modes of the gunas, how one acts, and then on top of the three modes is what is transcendental to the three modes. So basically, when one becomes a devotee of the Lord, when one becomes a bhakta, then one can transcend the three modes of material nature. Let me see. So in the later verses of this chapter, after the explanation of the three modes, because in these three gunas, it's virtually impossible to become free from the three gunas. It's virtually impossible. Even though one may be in the modes of sattva gun, still one is still bound, because yes, the mode of goodness is the best because that mode, one's own being, one's consciousness is saturated with knowledge. One is, because if there's no passion, one is saturated with knowledge, one becomes very, very highly thoughtful person. And also, there is the characteristics of being very happy. The happiness is there. When one is very, very content, there is no agitation, there is no hankering, for anything, but one is just very, very happy, very, very content. This is all the symptoms of the sattva-gun, but still, one is still bound by the modes of nature. Because even though one is better, actually, as there are different analyses of these three modes. Now, from 3 become 9, because there's a lot of interaction of these modes together. Because within the mode of goodness, there can be element of passion, maybe a little bit of element of ignorance. Because each of these modes, there's a lot of interaction between them also. A lot of interaction is there, so which means one is not really completely in one particular mode. So because there's a lot of interaction, so we mentioned that from 3 become 9, from 9 become 27, from 27 become 81. So which means this mode, it can become quite it become quite long, because the element is there, it's because sometimes, even though one may be just like the sages, for example, the sages, they are generally in the mode of goodness, the sages. But sages, sometimes if someone annoys them, sometimes they become angry, and then they will curse someone. If someone annoys them, just like when Vishwamitra Muni, when he was many instances, he became angry. Many instances, he became angry. Just like when he was trying to send one person to the heavenly planet. What's his name? I forgot his name. This was a king. He wanted to go to heavenly planet in his body. So he went to Vishwamitra that I want to go to the heavenly planet. So he pleased the sage, and it's okay. I'm sending you to heaven. You can go there. But so as this fellow was going to the heavenly planet, so Indra saw him coming. He said, "Who is this guy coming? What qualification has he got to come to the heaven?" So he sent him right back. He sent him back down to the earth. So when Vishwamuni, when he saw this king, this fellow, falling back down, then immediately he sent him right back up. So he sent him back up, and then Indra again sent this fellow down. So this guy became like a ball. He was going up and down, up and down, up and down. Up and down he was going. And so Vishwamitra, of course, became very angry. He said, "Okay, I'm going to create my own heavenly planets. I'm going to create my own heavenly planet so that this king can go there." So, and of course, somehow, I think Lord Brahma some sages, they had to pacify the Vishwamitra. So, many sages, even though they are predominantly in the mode of goodness, they also, sometimes they get overcome by anger. And anger is typically tama. When one is very angry, that is tamas. Also, the demigods are in the mode of goodness. Tama, they are in a sattva-gun. But at the same time, they also get overcome by passion. So in this way, so the gunas, they're always interacting with each other. The interaction is there. The gunas, which there is no, as long as one is in this material world, there is no a particular category that yes, this person is in the mode of goodness, or this person in the mode of passion, or this person in the mode of ignorance. Because all the modes, that's why this picture which I show of the three ladies, they have this puppet string. So they always, that's how they pull every living entity. You know, this, because there's Maya Devi, and who has got three servants, and so they are pulling the living entities this way, that way, this way, that way, that way. So according to the spaces of life that the living entity is in, so the particular mode will be manifest. And when a particular mode is predominant, so that shows. So normally, if there is a predominance of Sattvagun, one is basically in the higher planets, demigods. And when there is a predominance of Rajagun, one is human being, this planet. And when there is a predominance of Tamagun, then one is in the animal kingdom or animalistic. But the Lord specifically said, how does one become transcendental to the modes? How do one become free from the modes of material nature? So the Lord said, Mam chayo vabhicharena bhakti-yogena sevate sayagonam samadhityata brahma bhūyaḥ kapate. The Lord said, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So I think it was chapter 14 of the Bhagavad-Gita, which when Lord Krishna is explaining to Uddhava about what constitutes the three modes of material nature, the Tama, Raja, and Sattva. But it will also explain, but those activities which are in relation to me, those activities, they are beyond the modes. They are transcendental. It's just like, let's say you become angry, to any living. Normally, to become angry, for instance, that's the mode of ignorance. That's tamagons. However, if you can become angry for the protection of Krishna's temple, Krishna devotees. You can become angry, and that anger, it's not tamagun. That anger is transcendental. It's beyond the modes of material nature. So which means every activities that we may do in this material world, if such activities are not in a relation to the Lord, such activities, of course, they are within the modes of nature, and they bind us. We are bound by those activities. But if the same activities are directed to the Lord, then such activities is said to be transcendental activities. And such transcendental activities does not bind one to this material world, it frees one to this material world. One becomes liberated from the material world, one becomes liberated. So that's why the Lord said, jñātvā munayaḥ sarve, siddhim itaḥ, what is that? Parāṁ, that the sages, they understood this process perfectly, and then they attain perfection. They attain perfection from the material world. They become liberated from the material world because they know the process. So which means we really have to learn about how to become free from this mode, how to become free from the modes of nature. And of course, devotees of Krishna, they are not They are not within the modes of nature. They are not. Even though they may do so many activities that appears to be bound to be within the modes of nature, but because such activities, they are related to Krishna. They are related to the Lord. So therefore, they are not affected by the modes. They are not bound by the modes of nature. So that's different. That's why the scholar Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva means what is transcendental. That the Sattva is beyond the modes. It's beyond. So the Lord said, it's a manchayo vyabhicharena bhakti-yogena sevate saguna samatityatam brahma bhūyaḥ kapate. That if one engage in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of nature and comes to the level of Brahma. Of course, come to the level of Brahma doesn't mean that one become impersonalist. Brahma means one come to the Lord say Brahmanohi pratisthaham amritasya vivasya. So that Brahma, the Lord explained, is that process by engaging full devotional service, which means basically one realize one's constitutional position as an eternal servant of the Lord, and one engage in full devotional service, in not just devotional service, but in loving devotional service, param bhakti. So this is what has been explained in this chapter. So you should try to read this chapter again and again, and come to the understanding. So if there is any question or comments about this verse, so the Lord telling Arjuna that now I shall speak to you about this knowledge. Pravakṣyāmi, I'm going to speak to you this knowledge, which because this which is the best of all knowledge, and this same knowledge, sages, they've heard it, and they've applied, and then they attain perfection by hearing this same knowledge. They understood this knowledge. So which means we hear this, we have to make sure that we understand it. So really, the best way to understand is to simply meditate on what we are reading. To meditate upon it again and again till we understand. So basically, knowledge of the Gita has to be meditated upon. Then it can be understood. So anything? Any question? Anybody want to say something? Everybody is a sage here, so everyone is a sage here. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. So tomorrow is continuation tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.